Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this is my review of Baldur's Gate 3, played on PC via Steam. Sadly, I've never played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, even though I own both of them. Kind of. I bought a copy of Baldur's Gate 1 many years ago, probably when I was about 10 or 12, at a car boot sale. Sadly, it didn't work. The CDs just wouldn't install. And I think I have the second one on my phone or something weird like that. But yeah, never played them. But I did play Divinity Original Sin, which shares the developers of this game and is perhaps the best example here for a comparison. They are similar games. But what is Baldur's Gate 3? Well, it's a role-playing game. Quite literally, it is a role-playing game wherein you play a role, based on Dungeons and Dragons, Sword Coast of Faerûn, and I think it uses 5th edition. That means little to me, as I'm not much of a D&D person. I've read some of the books, but that's it. Some will call this a CRPG, a computer RPG. Others might call it an isometric RPG, a tactical RPG, turn-based RPG, whatever. In essence though, the game primarily takes place on an isometric camera angle, which you can rotate, change the elevation of, even opting for something closer to an over-the-shoulder angle, wherein you control a party of up to 4 characters, generally speaking, at a time, either solo or multiplayer. Combat is turn-based, where you can move, take actions, bonus actions, and the like. For example, one typical turn for a character might involve walking up to an enemy, that's your movement, attacking the enemy, that's your action, then shoving the enemy, that's your bonus action. You could also throw an enemy as an action and drink a potion as your bonus action. Of course, this being a fantasy game, there's loads of magic, which is, generally speaking, split up between cantrips, I think that's how you pronounce it, and spells. Cantrips are effectively magic that you can use indefinitely. You can use it again and again, whereas a spell takes up your spell slots, which you might just say is your MP, your mana, your magic, and then you will need to rest to recover it. And this being a role-playing game, you can create a character to your liking. The game has various races and classes for you to choose from. Humans, dwarves, elves, half-elves, tiefling, githyanki, half-orcs, dragonborn, gnomes, halflings, drow, and so on, with all their sub-races. As for classes, you have Barbarian, Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. And each class has at least 3 subclasses. And you can also multi-class, that is to say, the game has a level cap of 12. You could be a level 12 wizard, or you can divide it amongst the classes however you like. So you could have 1 level in every class, all levels in wizard. Maybe you want 6 levels in wizard, 6 in bard. The choice is yours. There's a nice number of hair and customization options, however you won't be able to freely transform and control your character's body and face, rather you choose from presets. Which I think is fine, but I know some people are very keen on spending hours tweaking every single bone and muscle and having the option to make complete monstrosities, like you can in, say, Elden Ring. Beyond this, of course, you can also opt not to create a character, but choose from an existing one. Origins, the game calls them. Much like how Divinity handled it. If you create your own character, you can find these origin characters in the game, potentially have them join your party, to aid you in your adventure. But what is that adventure? Well, the game starts off with your character being infected with a parasite, a tadpole that will turn them into a mind flayer. Remember the enemies in the Tower of Latria who walked around going ding ding ding? Think those. Yes, I am aware mind flayers in D&D existed before Demon Souls, in case you want to be smart and point that out. After escaping this situation, your character's suggested goal is to find a way to remove the parasite from your brain so you don't become Squidward. Of course, this is a role-playing game. You can, within the confines of a video game, do whatever you want to. That is where Baldur's Gate 3 impresses. Well, it impresses in a lot of ways actually, but freedom in particular. Whilst you are, of course, still confined in dialogue choices, you have a huge degree of freedom in how you interact with the world. You can kill almost anyone. Interacting with other characters is amusing. There's a lot you can do. There's no good or bad alignment, so to speak, but characters will react to you. There might not be a, oh, you got evil points, but if you're stealing from someone, they are not going to like it and probably call the guards, maybe even attack you. If you're bringing a good guy along in your party, and then you slaughter some innocents, that guy will not enjoy what you've done, and there might be consequences. Playing as a paladin, and likewise breaking your oath by lying, instigating violence, well, expect some consequences there. And there are options that might, seem bad, but rarely will they lead to like a game over or like a progression block. One example, fairly minor spoilers, met an eccentric bard type who suggested, oh, I can remove the parasite from you using this needle I have. It's not very deep behind your eye. Proceeded to shove his needle into my eye, realised the needle wasn't big enough, went for an ice pick, ended up popping my character's eye out entirely. Could have told him to stop at any point, but I was like, my man, go for it. If you think an ice pick's gonna get that thing out, why not? And I went along with it. I didn't reload, and I got something from it, shall we say. But yes, outside of narrative options, you have a lot of freedom in how you react with the world. You can pick up and throw anything that is reasonably able to be picked up and thrown. You can jump, you can climb if you have the requisite abilities. You can speak with every single animal you encounter. It is a magical world, and reactions often play in ways you might hope for but not expect. See some skeletons holding weapons. Take their weapons. On the off chance they are revived to fight you, they'll be unarmed because you took their weapons. Notice some loose rocks above an enemy? Knock them down. Stack some boxes to make yourself an impromptu platform for hopping over a wall. Of course, this being Dungeons and Dragons, the game relies on many rolls or saves. Want to intimidate someone? You need to roll for it. Want to attack someone? Roll for it. Checking for a trap nearby? Roll for it. You get the idea. So how you build your character means they may have more advantageous rolls than others. And roles, for that matter. Your character will have very different dialogue choices as well, depending on your class, race, background, past deeds, certain things you've done in the world up to that point. It's very in-depth, especially compared to many similar games, where you might just have a throwaway line here and there. The scope and breadth of Baldur's Gate is very impressive. If we're talking multiplayer, you can play up to 4 in a session, but it's not quite drop in, drop out. You need to start or make your campaign together. Then the host loads it up whenever they like, but you can only access it via the host. During multiplayer, any character can speak, but only one at a time, so you'll need to be careful in how you approach situations. Is there a druid over there? Maybe you want the druid in your party to go and talk to them because they might have some advantage there, right? And let's say we make a 4-player session and I'm the host. If you're not there, I can keep playing and control your characters too, but you can't play it by yourself. Other than that, what next? Game's presentation. It's nice. The game looks nice zoomed in or out. One option I would like to have would be WSD movement and a slightly tighter over-the-shoulder angle that you can almost skip. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine with isometric top-down, but zoomed in close, this game looks fantastic. You can approximate it by just zooming in a lot and using a controller, but I'm not a huge fan of the controller UI. So you could always use a controller and then like when you're in combat, zoom out and swap to mouse and keyboard. That's a very valid way, perhaps. Beyond that though, I have no real complaints about the game's presentation. Character models are good, metal looks nice and shiny if it, should be shiny. The facial animations, they're not the best I've ever seen, but they're very good. They're they're in the top 5, shall we say. I noticed a few minor visual glitches, such as some flickering on the UI elements, and I've had 2 crashes to desktops so far. There's been a few moments where our characters got stuck as well, but they are releasing patches quite frequently at the moment, and they seem to be tackling all these issues, which you love to see. But for the most part, it's felt pretty stable, performance has been good. The game really suggests going on an SSD. I put it on my hard drive just to see, and it's genuinely been fine on my hard drive. The game's music is nice and perfectly sets the mood and tone of the adventure. It's really hard to judge length because of how different you can play the game, but I would say 50 hours is being optimistic. 100 hours is more realistic. Hundreds, not at all an exaggeration. That's without considering the possibilities that come from very high replay value that this game offers you. You're definitely getting a lot of game, a lot of bang for your buck, such as it were. Another very impressive thing about this game, although not quite related to the gameplay as much, there's no DLC, there's no microtransactions, there's no battle pass, there's no daily login, there's no gouging tactics trying to get you to spend money on Baldur points or something. Beyond that, the game is £50, cheaper than full price games of £60. It's cheaper, and yet it has many times the scope, content, and polish of £60 games, or $70 games, whatever. This is how video games should be. It's quite hard to really explain just how the scope and scale of this is with a few minutes of video, but it's extremely impressive, and the sort of approach other developers should be aiming for. How is it, for example, that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, a game that has 8 different developer studios working on it, 8, and it's still, almost a year after launching, a buggy, broken mess, which sometimes gets worse with updates instead of better. And the user interface for that game, the main menu screens, they are horrible. How do you have 8 different studios and none of them could make a decent UI? Or was it that they all tried to work on it at the same time and you have a too many cooks situation? I don't know. Instead of fixing the game, they release hundreds of dollars of microtransactions every month for that game. That'll never stop until players stop defending it and paying for it, encouraging that sort of behavior. Pokemon is the most profitable media franchise in the entire world. Now granted, not all of that is from the games. A majority of that is probably from, like toys and things. Even so, Nintendo think it's acceptable to release games that an indie developer would be embarrassed to have their name on, because people will buy these low-effort, low-grade content games that cost full price and defend them. They will defend that which is indefensible. There is no excuse for the level of quality in these things. These aren't, tiny little studios who only have $10 to work with. So when a product like Baldur's Gate comes around from a studio like Larian, I cannot heap enough praise upon them. It is immensely gratifying to see that work, their work, paying off. The game hasn't even launched on consoles yet, and it's top of the charts on Steam. Time of writing, I've seen the game almost reach 900,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. That's not including, people who might have just bought it from, GOG or somewhere. For the sake of comparison, CSGO, generally speaking the most played game on Steam, hits 900 to 1 million concurrent players. So it's great to see people partaking in an actual good game in a genre that a lot of people think can't be popular, this CRPG genre, made by a studio who are interested in primarily giving people, players, a great experience. And not just charging them $30 for a skin they slapped out, 20 minutes in Blender, 5 minutes in Photoshop. So, you should absolutely give Baldur's Gate a shot. Not only is it a great game, but your money will be going towards people who deserve it, because they actually tried to make a great game. Thanks so much for watching, though, and I will catch you next time. Ciao.
And he fell down.
Oh, did you just...
Yeah,
Oh!
he's dead. He fell all the way off.
Nice
Yeah.
shot.
Okay.
Well, all right. So the question is, do we want the loot from that? How useful.
He's not a creature. He's my husband. I wanted him back the way he was, not this.
Is your husband? Do you want him or not?